Ms. Camilla just told us that we are all innate change makers. We're all inborn creators. And yet, 90% of us will probably live and die as mediocres. Don't get me wrong, this is a fact. 90% of us will probably live and die as mediocres. Is it because we lack the desire, the talent, or the knowledge to make a change? Or is it because of something else altogether, a little pixie dust? And when I ask you this question, you might think, bah, not again. And not prepare yourself for what might seem like yet another motivational, philosophical talk. But trust me, to be honest, today I'm going to consciously steer away from that regular motivational, inspirational talk formula, because today I'm here to tell you a story. My story. In fact, our story, the story of the humankind. I was born in a small village in southern India in the end of the last millennium in 1999. And then when I was 4 years old, in 2004, I left with my parents and migrated to Oman. And I've lived here ever since. In my last 17 years, so fairly recent, inexperienced, not very remarkable life, I have faced my hurdles, I have faced my challenges. As our first speaker said today, we have a connection to the ground, to earth. And in my case, it went a little too far. I suffered from childhood ataxia. It's rare, it's mild, but it's very rare and not very common. It's a neuromuscular discoordination, because of which you have gait abnormalities. You cannot stand up. And I had to walk on all 4 legs for a pretty long time, for like 2 years. Well, not that I'm complaining. At least I did look like Mowgli from the Jungle Book. So that was cool. I'm only complaining because Walt Disney decided to make the Jungle Book movie last year. Had they made it then, I might even have become a Hollywood superstar. Well, autographs and everything. But never mind, I have moved over my lost stardom. But the point is, despite all the hurdles and challenges that I've faced, despite all the challenges that I've faced, in 2012, when I began my activities as an environmentalist and a conservationist and started traveling the world, I realized that despite all my hurdles, I have had it better than a lot of young people my age. I have seen in North Africa, I have seen young children drinking muddied effluents. In India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, in scorching deserts where temperature can get as high as 79 degrees Celsius. I have seen young girls forced to walk miles after miles of desert, scorching desert sands just to reach a rusty old water pipe so they can quench the thirst of entire families. I have witnessed this. And when you see so much of adversity, when you face so much of adversity, when you see people struggle for something as available as water, it changes you. And I felt hate. I started hating myself for having it better, for having supportive parents, for having an environment that is conducive to my creativity, for having people who understand me. I started hating myself. I felt frustrated. In Oman, we have it so easy. It's all peaceful and blissful and secure. We have security. I have seen children who cannot ever access the 6-letter word, future. And I felt frustrated. And then puberty happened, and I grew up. Well, not much, but a little bit. I did grow up. And as I grew up, I realized that frustration is not the answer to anything. That you have to dust your pants and get up and start making a change. You have to become the change that you want to see. And eventually, I realized that the problem, we don't actually do this, is because of expectations. We expect change to be something so huge and revolutionary that we fail to see the little things in life that matter the most. In fact, my mother says that I came out of ataxia, I recovered during our regular evening nature walks in the backyard of our house in India, There used to be this tree, it's called bilimbi. It's, I don't know what it's called. It's not here, I think it's native to India. It's called bilimbi. It has this delicious sour, my mouth is getting watered right now thinking about bilimbi. It has these delicious sour fruits, okay? It looks like small cucumbers. And they grow all around the trunk. And I used to try to stand up and grab those bilimbi fruits. And from that small little thing, I could come out of something that had burdened my early childhood. The little things. In fact, it's funny, thinking about it in retrospect, it is funny that this entire humankind is so much like myself. For example, let's take the history, the past 2 centuries of human history, and you see it's very similar to my own life. Like for instance, the early 90s, it reminds me of a child. Flamboyant, idealistic, colorful, the jazz music, and the slow advent of modernism. And then came the late 90s and the early 2000s. With internet and faster connectivity and communication, we became like a depressed and frustrated teenager. We have a lot of knowledge, information, but not the essential know-how on how to use it. And then, in the past decade, we have slowly grown. We have become a gradually maturing young adult. As a species, we have understood how to move forward. And therefore, right now, right here, we have so much of possibilities to explore. We have the biggest power to create change and solve the biggest crisis in the world. For instance, the world water problem I talked about in the beginning. According to the Greenpeace International, 4 billion people face water shortage. 4 billion. That's a huge number. Do you know how big a billion is? In fact, many of us here, haven't even lived for 1 billion seconds, which is 32 years. That means that for every second that you have lived, there is a person in the world who cannot do this. They see me, they're going to get jealous. For every second that you have lived, there is a person who has not had the privilege of taking a sip of clean drinking water. And that is huge. It is this that motivated many young people, many change makers, many youngsters, in myself included, to stand up and fight for a change. But I was confused. Let's face it. In our lives, almost all of us have wanted to be successful, give something back to the world, do something revolutionary, but we didn't know how. The same problem with me. And then, slowly, as I told, I eventually realized that this was because when we took in the large picture, we forgot the little pixels within. And then, when I realized this, it just happened. I began to find inspiration everywhere, anywhere. The peculiar rhythm of a butterfly's wings, or the gait of a camel. There are so many wadis in Muscat. The way pebbles line a wadi, you can find inspiration anywhere. And I began to see how all of this, the little seemingly unimportant things, could contribute to a new and conducive and an understanding world order. If you take a drive through Salalah, Salalah is a beautiful place. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you go and visit Salalah. It's Southern Oman. I live in Salalah. If you take a drive through the mountainous villages in Salalah, close to where I live, you might see beautiful waterholes unique to Southern Oman. And there, around most waterholes, villagers plant moringa trees. Many of you might know what moringa is. Moringa, often called as drumstick, is a plant that is native to South Asia and has been used as a vegetable across Asia and Africa for centuries. So the villagers grow moringa plants there, but it's using it as a vegetable. The people in Oman rarely use moringa as a vegetable. It's the Indian expatriates who mainly make use of that. They also make for a beautiful composition for a photograph. You stand there, the little white flowers, the leaves, beautiful. But that's not what they're there for. Recently, while preparing for my Times of a Man inter-school quiz, I realized the wisdom behind this age-old Omani practice. Now, what follows might sound like a boring chemistry lecture, but please bear with me. I realized that Moringa oleifera, the plant, contains a special dimeric cationic protein, a protein that can help coagulate colloidal particles in turbid water. That means, in simple language, it can help clump together the floating impurities in a dirty colloidal water, and it can settle it down. Also, in the process, it can also disinfect the water. Now, that has profound implications. When I dug in a little deeper, I realized that moringa is also one of the only vegetable substances on earth that can effectively neutralize fluoride ions in water. This was shown in a 2006 study by A.S. Parlikar, and a year earlier, in 2005, Dr. W.B. Abdullah had also found that Moringa oleifera is antibacterial. Its antibacterial prowess is so strong that it can possibly deactivate even Salmonella typhi bacterium, the bacteria that causes typhoid. Now, all this boils down to the simple conclusion that if we grow this cheap, fast-growing, essentially very common vegetable plant, if you grow enough of this and know how to harvest it, you also get a water filter for free. And that is the basis for my Sasya Clean technology. It is a hypothetical, provisionally patented water filtration technology that revolves around the art of reintegrating traditional Omani, Indian, and other South Asian practices into a veritable scientific equation to help solve the world water problem. In fact, when I came up with Sasya Clean, I was overjoyed because it is easier said than done. I am a 17-year-old high schooler, and we don't have water research labs in Salala. So it was difficult. It was very difficult. But Sasya Clean as it stands today is designed to be easy. It is designed to be easier, cheaper, and faster to create than most water filters that we have right now. It is basically just a normal carbon water filter, a charcoal water filter, but instead of the regular materials, we use sugarcane bagasse to produce the activated charcoal, and then we have a double filtration to prevent biological contamination, and for that we use moringa. Moringa deactivates the colloidal particles, it disinfects the water, and clean water for everybody. Ta-da! The only problem is the long-term viability, because I'm talking about vegetable matter and water here, so I need to work more on the long-term viability. But even on paper, when I saw Sasya Clean working, when I saw its efficiency, its future potential, I was overjoyed. I don't know how it feels, but from what I've read, I think that I felt like how a mother might feel when she first holds a baby. It's overjoyed, thrilled, that I have done something. I have played a part in the future because I had potentially contributed positively to the solution of the world water problem. But let's not be naive here. Me alone is not enough. I know that, we all know that. A single person cannot possibly make much change. Only together can we even imagine, even hope to create a lasting, impacting social change. And the opportunities are right in front of you. They're around you. You can find inspiration anywhere. And I believe that human possibilities are endless. We have profound possibilities. We are human beings, after all. And we can create, we can think, we can imagine, we can observe, we can adapt, we can improvise, we can innovate. And we can change the world. I believe that right now, sitting in front of me, are people who could very well be the next Da Vinci's of the world, if only we care to look closely at the little things in life. The little things, the man who held the elevator for you, or the smile of your mother, or my little brother trying to teach his even younger friend to ride a bicycle, the little things. If only you care to look at them, you could be the next change maker in the world. And only if we decide to observe, adapt, and improvise these small things in life to create a big change, only then do we truly become what we were destined to be 2.6 billion years ago. Homo sapien sapien. Man, the wise, the wisest. Thank you.